Hey everyone, welcome back. Welcome to episode number 3, lesson number 3. This is all about lighting and exposure. So what we're going to do is explain to you how the camera works, how the light comes in, and what makes your picture just the right brightness and how you can change that. Before we get into this week's lesson though, as always, let's have a little look at the entries that we got in from last week. If you remember, last week's competition was all about the rule of thirds. So check out some of these brilliant entries that we had in. Here we go.
Huge thanks to everyone who sent pictures in this week, guys. Great work. First of all, got a picture here from Katie. I love what you've done with the 2/3 sky and 1/3 of the landscape there. Looks fantastic with the sun coming through. We've also got from Katie where she's got a picture of, I believe it's her sister from the email. This is fantastic using reflections as well. We'll cover that in another later episode. We've also then got Olivia, who is 11. Thank you, Olivia. Again, you've really, the rule of thirds there, using the triangle. I like that. Good. And then we've also got from Thomas, who is 11. What we've got here is Thomas has used 1/3 of the picture for what looks like it might be his schoolwork. That's brilliant. And then Thomas has also sent us another couple. So here he's used the rule of thirds to 1/3 of the room is out of focus and behind, and the other is the books and all of his work, which I'm sure everyone's having a headache with at home at the moment. Hang on, that's me, look. There we go. And really like this one, Thomas. It's great work with the cup and the glass just slightly off to the right-hand side there. Finally, we've got William, Anfield Road. Fantastic work, William. Really good. Well done, mate. Take care, guys. And do keep sending your work in. We're absolutely loving seeing all the pictures that are coming through. We're trying to get to as many emails as possible to reply to you all. But if anyone needs any further tips, don't hesitate to get in touch.
Wow, how good were they? What a fantastic effort from everyone that sent stuff in. Sorry if yours didn't make it this time. Keep coming, keep trying, keep learning. The beauty about photography is that you really can't get it wrong. There's no right and wrong. So what we might think is brilliant, other people might not think is brilliant, and everyone can have an opinion on it. Nobody's wrong. It's fantastic. So let's get into this week's session, which is all about exposure. Now, exposure, what does that mean? How do we work the amount of light that comes into our camera to create the perfect picture? Now, as you can see at the moment, I have got a light on me up here. Okay, we've got one light just here, which has got a pink gel on it, which is making the wall look nice and pink behind. And everything looks to be the correct exposure, doesn't it? So you can see clearly everything in the picture. Now, if everything was too bright, I would be overexposed because you wouldn't be able to see. It'd all be too bright, there'd be too much light on me. And if I was underexposed, then what that would mean is that there's not enough light. The camera can't see with the settings it's got to have enough light in the picture for it to look right. Now, we've probably all seen a picture that's too dark or too bright. Again, as we keep on reminding you guys, there isn't any strict rules with photography. So it's all personal preference, which is the brilliant thing about it, is that you can do what you love to see. Now, you might love something that is underexposed. It might look like a fantastic photo to you, and that's perfect. But what we want to just try and do is explain to you a little bit about how you can be able to control that light. So with photography, what we're going to do is we're going to show you a few diagrams now. And what I'll do is just explain through what these diagrams all mean. Don't worry if it doesn't make sense straight away. It's very, very complicated. Now, photography is actually really, really mathematical. So what you have, that doesn't mean you have to be. I'm no mathematician. But what you need to do is just understand that it is. And that certain things that change have to change in relation to other things to get your perfect picture. Now, most of the time, if you're using a phone or a tablet or a point and shoot camera, or even a big DSLR camera, but you've got it on automatic, the camera will be doing all of this in the background, so you never need to think about it. But there might be a time that you really want to know a little bit more about how that works, and if you want to change something, then it's really, really good to just understand about what's called the exposure triangle. So on your screen now, you can see something called the exposure triangle. And what we've got there, on one side, you've got the shutter speed. Now, the shutter speed, what that is how quickly, when you press your button on the camera, the shutter opens and closes. So what it does is it moves across, exposes and closes. That can be anything from 1/8000th of a second So if you imagine 1 second being broke down into 8,000 pieces, it's super, super fast. Or it could be up to anything up to 30 seconds or a minute. So you might see some pictures of stars where the stars are flying through the sky. Then these pictures are taken at what's called a long exposure. So that shutter is open for a really, really, really long time, and then it closes. And that's what exposes that picture to make it look the way it does. So on that side, we've got shutter speed. That is how quick the camera goes, opens up. On the other side there, we've got something called aperture. Now the aperture is, if you look into the front of a camera lens, you will see the size of, there's a hole in there where you can see. And what happens is when you change the aperture, that gets bigger or it gets smaller. Now, I'm not sure who come up with this, but confusingly, the smaller the number, so if you've got something that says f2.8, then the hole is as big as it can be on that camera. Or if you've got something that says f22, then the hole is tiny, really tiny. So the lower the number, the more light that comes into your camera, okay? The lower the number, the more light that comes in. The higher the number, the less light that comes in. And the other part on our exposure triangle is called the ISO. Now, the ISO is basically how sensitive your camera is to light, okay? So you know sometimes how we go out early in the morning, it's really bright and we need to put sunglasses on because it's so bright, because our eyes are super sensitive to the light. Now, another person, they might not want to put sunglasses on because their eyes aren't as sensitive to that light. Every camera has a sensor and that has a set amount of light sensitivity. And you can change that by changing the number on the ISO. So we've got our 3 sections. All these 3 sections, they are what make up our exposure triangle. If we change 1, our exposure will change. If we change 2, but we change them in opposite directions, then the exposure will stay the same. Okay, so what happens is it's all what's called very relative. If we change 1 setting on our exposure triangle, it will change. If we change 1 setting one way, another one the same way, it will really change. But if you change all of those settings 1 click on the camera in the same direction, your exposure will stay exactly the same. Now, what we'll talk about in another lesson, we'll go into a little bit more detail about what the effects can be of shutter speed, of aperture, and of ISO. But you can control the lighting and the exposure of your photographs simply by changing one of these settings on your camera, and you'll then be able to get a different effect. So have a play. There are no rules, as we say, there's no rules in this. It's entirely up to you to have a go, to enjoy, to learn how to do photography and see what you enjoy doing. See what's good fun for you, because what you enjoy might not be what somebody else enjoys, and that's absolutely fine. So this week's challenge, what are we going to do for this week's challenge? What we'd love to see is we'd love to see you give us either a bright picture or a dark picture, but that is perfectly exposed, okay? So we're looking for a picture where we can see exactly what we're meant to see in the picture, but one might be bright and one might be dark. It doesn't matter, it's up to you. You can either send us one of each, or you can send us your favourite one. So have a little think. Maybe some ideas might be that you might want to take a picture of something in the garden during the day, or it might be something outside, or you might want to use a lamp or a torch to light up something, light up one of your favourite toys. So have a play, and this time what we need you to do is have a think about where the light is and how the light falls onto something that you're photographing. Really important in photography is lighting. So look forward to seeing you next week. Don't forget, submit your entries to competition@happydaysphoto.co.uk. Be sure to include your name, your age and where you're from, and we'll hopefully be able to give you a shout out next week when we come to next week's lesson on Friday. So share this with your friends, share it with the school, make sure that everyone knows that there's this free training, and by all means send us some feedback. Let us know what you think. Hopefully you're enjoying these, and if there's anything else you'd like to know or any further questions, please feel free to get a message sent to us or ask your grown up to send us a message, and we'd love to help you out further. Speak soon. Have a great day. Bye bye.